The John Cena heel turn. The conversation we've all had at some point over the last 20 years or so. The thing that fans and critics of the man himself have been almost attempting to will into existence with dirt sheet rumors and fantasy bookings alike. The single most anticipated storyline ever? Certainly in modern wrestling. WWE's Unicorn. But after a nearly 2-decade-long will they or won't they, was seemingly also set to become the one that got away as we entered John's announced final run. Surely this final year was just going to be a nostalgia trip with him giving every possible person the rub that he could, all while constantly narrowly missing accomplishing that final 17th championship win before finally fulfilling it somehow and then dropping it as he rides off into the sunset, right?
Oh my God, John, what the hell are you doing?
Well, they finally did it, didn't they? They went and turned John Cena heel. Better late than never, I guess. Look, I mentioned it in the previous video, booking Mania 41, my feelings on how I think they might be too little too late to really get everything they could have gotten from the fabled Cena heel turn, but damn it, I'm going to give it my best shot anyway. But you should definitely go watch that video if you haven't yet, if for nothing else, the Cena and Cody booking portion, just to get you caught up to date on where we are, as I covered how I would have turned John heel in that video and how the match with Cody plays out. And we are going to stick to that for the sake of this video. So go watch that, it's timestamped, then come back here. Now, some misguided individuals would claim it's the greatest heel turn in history. They're wrong, it will forever be Hogan joining the NWO, but I certainly can appreciate that sentiment because this has been pretty good so far. As of the moment of this writing, Cody and John have had what is presumably their final confrontation before Mania at the March 31st Raw from London. So now we have what I have dubbed the I am breaking up with you promo, the I'm gonna ruin wrestling promo, and the I bury mediocrity promo. And despite still preferring my explanation for the heel turn rather than just simply getting back at the fans after all this time, these were truly wonderful and showcase how good John is still on the mic, especially this most recent one, which I think has got to be the best thing so far in this rivalry and works perfectly as their go-home segment to Mania if we get nothing else. I want to use the other two promos though at a couple of key moments in my booking because they do fit in with what we've already established, so I will point those out when they come up. So we know that Cena's retirement tour consists of 36 dates, not matches, dates in total. And in real life, he has essentially fulfilled 7 of those with his appearances at the Raw premiere on Netflix, the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber, the March 17th, 24th, and 31st editions of Raw, and then obviously WrestleMania 41. That leaves us 29 dates to work with. But we also know due to some internet sleuthing that there are 5 other dates already confirmed. Those include Backlash on May 10th, the May 24th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, the following Smackdown on May 30th, and then the June 13th and June 20th editions of Smackdown as well. That week in between those will play host to Money in the Bank on June 7th, and even though he's not confirmed, I'm going to go ahead and plan him to be there as well. Ditto for the Raw after Mania. He's not booked there, but for my story, I'm going to make him be there. Deal with it, John.
You get nothing!
Looking ahead though, the rest of the year, what is confirmed, we do know for sure that there will be a Super Saudi Arabia Blood Money Showdown this year, and there are 2 conflicting reports, with one saying June is the planned date, and one hypothesizing November due to previous years. However, we do know in January, WWE will be there for the Royal Rumble, so logically, the June date makes more sense. So let's go ahead and book that for June 28th. And let's plan for John to be there as well, because I cannot imagine there not being some sort of agreement in place for the Saudi princes to get one of John's final matches. There is a July 12th Saturday Night's Main Event on the schedule, as well as a Q4 one planned that I will place in December at some point. SummerSlam and Clash in Paris in August seem like pretty solid locks, as well as the Survivor Series in November. There is no September or October pay-per-view planned as of right now, so I'm going to go ahead and also plan for a Bad Blood show in October just like last year. That's going to leave us 15 appearances to place in between those events to build matches and create moments, with the hope that we can tell the story in a way that makes sense, full of Easter eggs that provide a retrospective of the career of John Cena, while also giving the stars that can use it the most rub of sharing the ring with him for one of his final matches. That being said, we are going to pick this up on the Raw after WrestleMania, where newly minted 17-time world champion John Cena opens the show. And he says to the crowd, "What do you want to talk about?" You know, when I told you all that I was leaving, everywhere I went, all you wanted to talk about was number 17. When is John Cena gonna win number 17? When's he gonna tie Ric Flair's record? I wonder if we'll be at the show when it happens. And it became very, very apparent that that was what was going to define my last run. And so I decided in that moment, winning the championship for the 17th time was the single most important thing that I could do with what was left of my career. And even more so, it was clear that it was what you all wanted, which that was what was most important to me at the time. And I wanted so bad to give you that, more than anything that I've ever wanted in this business. But deep, deep down, I knew there was a very real chance I just didn't have what it took anymore. And so yeah, I sold out, but I did it for you. I compromised myself, my values, everything to give you what you wanted. And what did you do? You did what you fickle sons of bitches always do. You changed your mind and decided, this isn't what I want anymore. Well, guess what? It's not about what you want anymore, because your time is finally up and my time is finally now. And this is where we get the "I'm breaking up with you" promo. But instead of Cody interrupting him, instead it's R-Truth. And what I think would be really funny is to have Truth handle this like an actual breakup. So he comes out and he's like, "Okay, wait. Let's talk about this. We had some good times together. Look, whatever it is I need to do, I'll change. We'll change, right, guys? We'll change. Please, John, we love you. We can work this out." And then Cena stops him. "Look, just stop, okay? Stop with this whole thing you do. Don't you get tired of being everyone's goddamn punchline? Running out here pretending like you don't have a clue, when in reality, this is one of the smartest and hardest working guys in the business. But because you don't recognize this man had to carve himself a lane in the WWE by being your fucking punchline. Well, if you want to do that, be my guest, but I'm done joking." Truth stands there heartbroken and just says, "I thought we were friends, John." John says, "You're no more a friend to me than any of them. You're just like them. You're a joke that I laugh at. I keep you around because I pity you." And I know this is maybe going a little bit too far, and it's not likely John would say this, but I would have him say, "And you, well, you've made your last wish." And to that, Truth just says, "Everybody says don't meet your heroes. But I never understood it because I got to meet mine all the time. But I see what they mean now. I see you." And with that, Cena beats the dog out of R-Truth. And I'm talking violence, y'all. Now, number one, this is going to put nuclear heat on John Cena. But even more than that, I believe the symbolism of Cena breaking up with the fans is represented perfectly by his dismantling of R-Truth, his ultimate fan. And I think the way he peels back the curtain on who Truth is and his history as a character by highlighting how good he is, but also putting the blame on the fans for not recognizing that sooner, and so he could have made something out of his career, plays perfectly well into what we will eventually get into the "I'm gonna ruin wrestling" promo. And part of that is ruining the whole inside joke on R-Truth. A few days later on Smackdown in Nick Aldis's office, Damian Priest walks in and says, I thought something funny was up when I showed up to Raw on Monday and they wouldn't let me into the building. And then I saw what happened to Truth. I talked to him yesterday. He said that he got a personal invite to the show from The Undertaker. And then Priest flies into a rage, tipping Nick Aldis' desk over and getting in his face. It's obvious that there's something going on here. So tell me one thing. Did you know what was going to happen? And Aldis says, no, of course I didn't know. And you're right. I can't do the accent. No, of course I didn't know. And you're right. There is something very strange going on, but I have nothing to do with it. To which Priest says, then prove it. Make the match, me and Cena. Aldis says, I can't just do that. And Priest says, you're still the GM, right? Make it. And he storms away. And later on that night, we get the announcement from the commentary booth that the match is official at Backlash. John Cena will defend against Damian Priest. The next week on Smackdown, Nick Aldis is waiting in his office when, unannounced, in walks The Rock. And he says to Nick Aldis, SmackDown's very important to The Rock. Ever since they created it off of The Rock's catchphrase, it's always sort of felt like my show. And you know that, maybe more than anybody, how much my family has done for this show. And so in a way, you could say it's almost like my family owns this show. Wouldn't you agree? And The Rock couldn't help but see that last week you took it upon yourself to make a match for John Cena for Backlash. And Aldis responds, yes, I did. John is champion of our show, and I am the general manager. So you could say it is my job and within my right to give him an opponent. Wouldn't you agree? And The Rock smiles and says, you're absolutely right. And The Rock's going to let your little match go forward. It will be John Cena versus Damian Priest at Backlash. And you know what? While we're at it, I'm going to make a little match myself for next week. A little tune-up for Damian Priest so that I know he's good and ready to face the champ. And then he leans in close so Nick can smell the tequila on his breath real good and says, but don't you ever forget who you work for. The next week on Smackdown, the night before Backlash, Damian Priest is set to square off against Karrion Kross in the main event, but as Priest is entering the ring, he is jumped by Kross and is absolutely destroyed, with the match never even really getting underway. The show goes off the air with Priest maybe being put through the announce table or something like that and just laying in a heap. And then the next night at Backlash, Priest does make the match with Cena, and he gives it a gallant effort, gutting through the obvious injury sustained from the night before, even getting a couple of close 2 counts, but is ultimately just too beat up and not able to overcome Cena. Cena wins with the attitude adjustment. The next couple of weeks leading up to the May 24th Saturday Night's main event don't feature John. However, on the May 16th SmackDown following Backlash, we find out what The Rock really meant by the show belonging to his family when his daughter Ava, the NXT GM, shows up and informs Nick Aldis that she has been named the acting co-GM of SmackDown. The Rock now not only has handed down his show to his offspring, but he now effectively has final underbosses on both Monday and Friday nights respectively, with Mark Calloway Undertaker and now his daughter. We also see a segment where Karrion Kross gives Nick Aldis some shit for having to share his job, at least his job for now, and Aldis says, the thing is, even as co-GM, I'm still the GM, and I still have the ability to place you in matches, like the one I'm putting you in with Damian Priest at Saturday night's main event. Speaking of that, on the SmackDown before the show, Ava tells Nick Aldis that John Cena will in fact be in attendance that night with a big announcement. And when Ava leaves the screen, we see Aldis pull out his phone and begin to make a phone call. When Cena shows up on the May 24th Saturday Night's main event, this is where we're going to get the I'm going to ruin wrestling promo. And I really like the mention of him observing the fans and making petty little mental notes when they wronged him over the years, such as the spinner belt being universally shit on when he debuted it, and how they are now using that to fit in with his overall motives of getting back at the fans. And I would like to continue this trend of doing callbacks to specific grievances the fans have had with Cena during his career to incorporate them into the future storytelling of his feuds. So with the belt being the focus and him telling us of his intention to take the title and retire with it as the last real champion, this time he is interrupted by the music of one Charles Manson Punk. Now, if you remember from my WrestleMania 41 booking, Punk hasn't been seen since being pinned by Seth Rollins on the grand stage, who has since formally aligned with Paul Heyman and defeated Roman Reigns at Backlash. Punk does reminiscent of how he used to do, where he cuts the promo as he's slowly walking to the ring, and he says, "How original. Your grand scheme is a cutting room floor idea of mine from 13 years ago. You say you want to ruin wrestling for everyone? Well, guess what? It wouldn't be the first time, because you did it for over 10 years before, and I can't turn back the clock and take back that time you stole from me when I deserved it because I was better than you. And I can't erase you from the record books. I can't deny the reality of the fact that you will forever be spoken of along with Ric Flair as future generations eat up that narrative that either one of you are ever the GOATs. But what I can do is I can control how your story ends. I can ensure that you don't go out as champion, and that everyone remembers John Cena's final run and his 17th championship for the midlife crisis it really was. So what do you say, John? What do you say we go back to the scene of the crime, Money in the Bank, and I kick your ass and take that title again for the final time?" Cena milks it a little bit before responding simply, "No." But as he goes to leave the ring, Punk attacks and hits the GTS on Cena. He then picks up the title, looks around, and absconds through the crowd, reminiscent of how he did all those years ago at Money in the Bank. He lets Cena know through a social media post that they show on Raw that he will be at the May 30th Smackdown to discuss his terms, and this segment will sort of mirror their contract signing from 2011, but it's going to have some stark contrasts. This time John comes to the ring and he says nothing. He just waits. Until finally, we see Punk emerge from the crowd, kind of like up in the lower bowl area, so like there's some distance between them and stuff. And he says, "I don't know about you, but I'm getting a real sense of deja vu here. And isn't it poetic? At the very same place, against the very same man you couldn't stop from taking the title and leaving before, that same guy is going to be the one that saves it and stops you from doing the same thing." And it's been a little while since you and I have had one of these little contract signings, hasn't it? And we got a lot of new faces, so please allow me to play a little clip from the last time we did one of these things. Now, if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it after you're done here, because it's really, really good to revisit. But one of the things that Punk did at that previous contract signing was play a clip for John Cena to tell him how he felt about him personally. And that clip was of The Rock roasting John Cena from his personal Facebook account back during their rivalry. And when you go back and watch it, he brings up a lot of the same things that John Cena condemned the fans for in these previous promos. Now, I'm not going to hash out the entire thing. Like I said, go watch it when you're done here to get the full effect. But one of the things The Rock says is, "Here's why John Cena's angry. It's the same process every night all around the world. Your music hits, you go running down there like a lost snagglepuss, you're full of energy and fire, and then your music stops. Shh, shh, shh. You hear something, John, that eats away at your very soul, eats away at your very core. You hear this in every arena around the world, and it kills you because you know you're going to hear it for life. Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks." He did it better. But anyway, Punk has this play out again, reminding John Cena of a lot of the things that The Rock himself has said. And Punk says, sorry, wrong clip. I didn't mean to play that one. Guys, roll the other one. And this time, the clip is of what John Cena said right after he was shown that promo from The Rock. And one of the things he says specifically is, I'm concerned with the ones who wear their colors proud. I'm concerned with the people who've been loyal and devoted to me and know that no matter what, I will not give up on them through thick or thin, good, bad, or indifferent. Those are the people that I care about. And these are obvious parallels to what is happening with Cena's heel turn now and shows him to be nothing but a contradiction. Now, after that plays, presumably the crowd would be chanting something like, "You sold out," but Cena simply responds with, "This isn't a contract signing. I'm not playing your game, and I'm not playing their game. You guys want me to have this little war of words with CM Punk, and I'm not doing it. I'm not giving you what you want, and I'm not giving you a title match." And this is obviously playing into John Cena's quest to ruin wrestling by not giving us the promo exchange that we want. Punk says, "Well, John, I would ask you to reconsider because this is a one-time offer. Either way, I'm coming to Money in the Bank, and I'm bringing this title, and I'll give you the chance to show up and try and beat me in the middle of this ring and take it back from me, which you can't. But if you don't show up ready to face me, then I might just decide to keep your 17th World Championship for myself, and then you can go get The Rock to make you a shiny new toy belt just like his. Maybe a little spinning dollar sign as a reminder of the fact that he owns you. But every time he does, I'm going to be there to destroy it. Whether I got to stone cold it into a river or Mr. Perfect it with a hammer. So you can either play my little game once and handle this like a man, or you can play my little game for the rest of your retirement tour. So what's it going to be, champ?" Finally, John relents and says, "Fine. You need to be reminded one more time of your place around here, Second City side character. Fine. One last reminder that you're nowhere near as good as you think you are, and you will forever be second to me." And with that, the match is officially made for Money in the Bank. John Cena versus CM Punk. And on the June 6th Smackdown, the night before Money in the Bank, CM Punk shows up unannounced and heads to the ring. He grabs the mic and says, "John Cena doesn't think it's important to be here tonight. He doesn't want to talk to me, and that's fine because I'm not actually here to talk to John Cena. I'm here to talk to you, Dwayne." And then CM Punk proceeds to let loose on Pipe Bomb number 2. Only this one is aimed squarely at The Rock. Now, I wouldn't presume to know all of the real life things that CM Punk would like to say about The Rock in this promo. And if I were directing this, for the most part, I would just tell him to go out there and go off. But the one bullet point I would love for him to hit on is something that he said back during the previous Pipe Bomb segment, which is, back in 2011, one of the things I said was, I'd like to think this place would be better off when Vince McMahon is dead. But the fact is, it's probably going to get taken over by his idiotic daughter and his doofus son-in-law. Well, it turns out I was wrong about a few things there. We didn't need Vince to become a skeleton after all. We just needed some to come out of his closet. And the idiotic daughter and the doofus son-in-law actually turned out to be pretty okay. And if it were just them leading the charge, I do feel like this place would be better off. But it turns out the actual doofus that ended up at the top, the final boss, may end up being even worse than I imagined. Because in between his shitty make-believe title that he made for himself and needing to impress and befriend rappers that are half his age, now we're all caught up in his midlife crisis that's even bigger than John Cena's. And I don't know if he's more drunk off his tequila or his own ego, but the fact that he can't seem to remember whether he wants you to cheer or boo him in the moment, I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence. So tomorrow night, I'm going to Money in the Bank, and I'm walking back out with this, and then I'm going to save wrestling from the man who's really trying to ruin it, and it's not John Cena. It's you, Dwayne. And then Ava's music hits, and she comes out angrily yelling for security to get Punk and get the title. And a line of guys come running out, but Punk is just too quick and escapes through the crowd once more. Now, the night of Money in the Bank, Punk and Cena have a classic match with many callbacks to their previous one, and each knowing the other's moves so well that they are countering one another like crazy. And at one point, Cena goes up to hit Punk with an attitude adjustment from the top rope, but Punk counters, knocking Cena to the mat and landing the Macho Man elbow from the top rope. He gets a 2 count and then gets up and does the signal for the go to sleep, but as he's waiting for Cena to rise, we hear, "Burn it down!" And out comes Seth Rollins, who earlier in the night defeated Gunther, Sami Zayn, Penta, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and he has Paul Heyman with him. Punk looks to the entryway furious as it looks like Rollins is about to cash in and turn his match into a triple threat, just like he did with his first cash in. But instead, Rollins just does his little villain laugh and taunts Punk from the entryway, feigning like he's going to run down and interject into the match, and providing just enough of a distraction for Cena to get his bearings, take out a set of brass knuckles from his shoe, and blast Punk when he turns back around with a punch to the face. He picks him up, hits the attitude adjustment, and covers him for the win. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman laugh to themselves and leave back the way they came. John Cena takes back his title, puts one foot on Punk's chest, and raises it. John is advertised for the next 2 Smackdowns on June 13th and June 20th, which is as far as we know for sure when it comes to scheduled appearances, so we're pretty much guessing now beyond this. And also, we place Super Saudi Blood Money Showdown on the 28th, so we are going to use the next couple of weeks to build to a match there. What we do know for sure is we're going to have John Cena come out on the June 13th SmackDown to gloat about his victory over CM Punk. And he says, "No matter how much you want to chant you can't wrestle, there is no doubt about who is best in the world. And you hate it. 5 moves of doom, right? But if I super kick and spear my way through every match, that would be different, right? Or do some flippy crap and botch half of my stuff, but it makes you idiots go, ooh! 5 moves of doom is all I need, and it's all you marks deserve." And then we introduce his new opponent. Now, ultimately, there are a few options we could go with here, and this is the one show I can't decide for sure, so I'm going to lay out all of them to you, and you can tell me in the comments which one you like best. Now, if we just need a big name for Super Saudi Blood Money Showdown, then you could go in the direction of an AJ Styles. The two have history that could be played on, and I like the idea of Styles maybe hitting Cena with a, "You and Punk argue about who's the best all day long, but the real ones know it was neither one of you as long as I was around. Flat earth, something like that." Anyway, the biggest big name, but likely the least viable one, is that of Brock Lesnar. And with him being the guy that historically has given Cena his toughest physical challenge, it would make sense to see him turn up for one more trip to Suplex City. And, you know, never say never in the WWE, especially when it comes to Super Saudi Blood Money Showdown, but with Brock being a person of interest in the Vince McMahon sex trafficking scandal thing, allegedly, it's very unlikely. Although I will say, if it would make sense for anywhere, it would be there, as Saudi's kind of treated like its own little world as far as WWE is concerned, and he would likely still get cheered there. I don't think they'd be able to do any lead-up appearances for Brock in America, though, without him hearing it from the fans. Now, a dark horse option could be recently re-signed Rusev, as he and John also have history, and I expect Rusev to come back to a huge pop with the whole Rusev Day thing still being as over as ever. And Super Saudi Blood Money Showdown is as good of a place as any to celebrate Rusev Day, and this would get him right back into the main picture. But if you prefer a route of getting as many current stars in there with Cena for his final run as possible, and this is probably what I would go with if Lesnar and Rusev aren't doable, then I would go with a match with LA Knight. And if you wanted to get real crazy, you could even make it like a triple threat and throw Carmelo Hayes or hell, even Jacob Fatu in there, and we could even make it make sense. But for LA Knight specifically, I would want The Rock's involvement in at least one of the lead-up shows, for reasons that will become apparent shortly. See, up to this point in our booking, LA Knight has lost his US title at WrestleMania, and shortly after that, without a rematch, was shuffled to Raw and has been living under the thumb of its new director, Mark Calloway, better formerly known as The Undertaker. And LA has been especially having a rough go of it on Raw, seemingly being a target and losing match after match. Now, I would have LA Knight show up and accuse The Rock of orchestrating everything that's been happening to him because it's all been a ploy to keep him away from John Cena. The Rock does his whole "who in the blue hell are you" thing and says, oh yeah, you're that guy that my cousin called the redneck version of me, right? And, we just let them go back and forth. I'm sure it would be great until LA Knight starts to get under The Rock's skin. So much so that he goads him into making the match for Super Saudi Blood Money Showdown. This is done sort of at the behest of John Cena, which sows the first seeds of dissent that we see between the two of them, with The Rock assuring him that it will all be taken care of. And that plays into another reason LA Knight works as the right guy, which is how I would have the finish of the match play out. John Cena is obviously going to win this match, but he's going to do it with the help of Travis Scott interference, using maybe a taser or something. And this is going to lead to a SummerSlam match between Scott and whoever loses this match to John Cena, which, like I said, I think works best if it's just what I laid out, but any of these matches would be good to see on their retirement run. I don't know, it's almost like 1 year and 36 dates isn't enough time to tell the best John Cena heel story. Anyway, another thing that happens at Super Saudi Blood Money Showdown is a match between CM Punk and Seth Rollins over what happened at Money in the Bank. And ideally, we would find a way to make Rollins defend his Money in the Bank case. And this is where you think Punk is going to win the case, and that'll be his ticket to maybe another shot against Cena. But instead, he's going to get screwed over by a returning Bronson Reed, who, if you remember, CM Punk took credit for injuring him back during their War Games match. And Bronson Reed is going to obviously take umbrage to that and cost Punk this match, leading to a SummerSlam match between the two of them. Now, one thing that's going to be obvious for any one of these booking options is that we're going to factor Nick Aldis's involvement in it somehow. Whether it's bringing in Brock or Rusev or facilitating LA Knight to show up on Smackdown behind Ava's back, either way, Aldis is involved. And if you remember back to his phone call before Money in the Bank, it could also be implied he's the one who called CM Punk to show up and create chaos. And this underlying attempt to undermine John Cena and The Rock continues on the next Smackdown, which would be July 4th. We see Nick Aldis discussing John Cena's SummerSlam opponent with Ava. Now, one quick note I want to make about the character of Ava after being promoted to co-general manager of SmackDown is that this doesn't drastically change her and make her a villain, so to speak. I want to drive home that her actions don't so much come from a heel perspective, more so a kid trying to desperately gain their father's affirmation. And by this time, Nick Aldis has figured this out as well, and so he manipulates her that a major match like John Cena's last SummerSlam deserves a major opponent, and the match to decide that should demonstrate it. She wavers a little bit, saying, "I'm not sure, I feel like I should talk to my dad about this, but he hasn't answered any of my phone calls tonight." And Aldis says, "Can I give you a piece of advice? You're the daughter of the Brahma bull, right? Take the bull by the horns and show some initiative. And I know what a deep sense of patriotism your dad has, and so what a better time to announce this match than on America's birthday." And Ava finally gives in. So later that night, we find out that the next Saturday at the July 12th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, a 20-man Royal Rumble style match is going to determine John Cena's SummerSlam opponent. Now the kicker is, to be able to enter this match, you either need to be a former world champion or a current title holder. Nick Aldis seems pleased, having successfully tricked Ava into making this match, and Ava thinks she's made a smart general manager move that will make her dad proud. However, we see her on the phone later that night after the announcement, presumably getting chewed out by the final boss on the phone, with her desperately trying to explain how the match came to be made. Then, as Nick Aldis opens up Saturday Night's Main Event and is hyping up the number one contender match, he is interrupted by the sound of, "If you smell..." The Rock comes out, flanked by his daughter, and confronts Nick Aldis, having now put all the pieces together of his months of chicanery in trying to organize challengers to get the belt off of John Cena. Now, The Rock simply says, "I warned you not to forget who you worked for." He gets in close again and says, "You're fired," and plants him with a rock bottom. Ava looks on, visibly uncomfortable by this whole thing, but she ultimately acquiesces to her father's demands. Now, the next time we see John Cena is also on the July 12th Saturday Night's Main Event, where he comes out fresh off his latest victory and says, "Oh, I bet that one hurts, doesn't it? Yeah, just like your Cody Rhodes and your CM Punks, I put down another one of your favorites, another one of your hand-picked heroes you have yourself convinced should be the guy instead of me. Cena wins, lol, isn't that what you guys say? Super Cena holds another guy back that you think deserves it. Well, newsflash, nobody deserves it more than me." And then we hear the music of Sami Zayn. He comes to the ring and says, "I'm gonna say something that probably will be unpopular, but it's the truth. People do like to talk more about the times that you've looked out for yourself, when the truth is, you've done more than your share of giving back and giving opportunities. And that's the John Cena that I know. The one that gave me my first opportunity when I debuted on the main roster just a little over 10 years ago on Monday Night Raw. The one that was open to any and all challengers and turned them all back with his heart and his determination and his never give up attitude. And that, John Cena, is the greatest of all time." But another truth is that since you won that record-breaking title, you haven't beaten anyone without help in the entire run you've had. And ironically, the thing that was supposed to cement your legacy is going to be the thing that completely tarnishes it. And what's crazy to me is right before you sold out because you thought you didn't have what it took anymore, you won the chamber with nothing but your own heart and your determination and the never give up attitude of the John Cena that I knew. And I wonder if you're still that same John Cena deep down that I knew. And I came out here to find out for myself." And now John responds, "What's crazy to me, Sami, is that you talk about tarnishing legacies, but I've never ended anyone's career with my careless work, let alone my best friend's." This is obviously a reference to Kevin Owens' potential career-ending injury, and that especially brutal match with Sami that was really kind of the last time we saw him properly. And even though it's not true, Kevin's been dealing with this injury for months, on the surface, blaming Sami is one of those heelish gray areas that's just delicious. And Cena says, "But you're absolutely right. I have given out opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for every single one of those guys in the back, that if you want some, come get some. That wasn't just a challenge in this ring. That was a challenge if you think you're good enough to be the top guy. You want to be the face that runs this place? Come take it from me." And the truth is that the only reason a guy like Roman Reigns ever did is because I left it here for him. Oh, I'm sorry, was that not oozy of me to say? Well, here's some more truth. What did you do with your opportunity, Sami? You injured yourself during your entrance like a complete amateur, like an El Generico. And now you're out here begging me for another opportunity? Okay, but not here for these idiots. No. Let's go back to where it all started for you, Sami. 2 days' time, Monday Night Raw in Montreal, Canada. I'll give you the opportunity to fumble it again in front of all your people. And don't worry, I won't bring any help because I'm not going to need it. you're not on the same level as any of these other guys. So this is going to be an easy night of work for me. And you know what else? I'm going to dedicate the ass whooping I give you to Kevin Owens. Get well soon, Kev. And then Sami clocks Cena and pounces on him, hammering him with lefts and rights. Cena scrambles to get Sami off of him, and as he's making his way to his feet, in the corner, Sami comes flying in to hit the haluva kick. He stands over Cena and says, "I'll see you Monday." Then to cap off a huge Saturday night's main event, later that night in our main event, is the big Rumble style match to determine the number one contender. And hopefully going into it with the field being a pretty impressive list of former and current champions, that whole anyone can win feel will be there. Now, our current champions in this booking that would be eligible would be Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker, United States Champion Chad Gable, and both of our sets of tag champions, which for Raw would still be Dominic Mysterio and Logan Paul, who joined the Judgment Day the night after Mania, and on SmackDown, it would still be Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, with them having won the titles at Mania as well. Now, as far as former world champions, you would be able to draw on names like The Miz, Sheamus, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Gunther, Rey Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, AJ Styles, Damian Priest, Kofi Kingston. You could even have some fun and have like Booker T come back, or maybe even bring Jinder Mahal back for a day. Even if Mick Foley is able to come in and do a couple minutes, get Mick in there. It would be a lot of fun. Now, there are a few things I'd like to establish during the course of this match. One of them is that this is going to be where Finn Balor is going to return after having been kicked out of the Judgment Day by Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio, and this is where he's going to get some revenge by eliminating both of them. Another thing we're going to do is have Damian Priest eliminate Braun Breaker, setting up a rivalry for the two of them and an Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam. And finally, one more is that our final entrant at number 20 is going to be Goldberg. And he comes in, spears Gunther, and eliminates him. Gunther then jumps back in the ring, returns the favor, and they get into a brawl that has to be pulled apart while the match is still going on into the ring. This sets up a match between the two of them at SummerSlam as well. But our final five is going to come down to Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Solo Sikoa, and Jacob Fatu. Now, at some point, I want Jacob to save Solo from being eliminated by AJ Styles, but he ends up getting eliminated himself for the trouble. Solo then spikes AJ while he's not paying attention and eliminates him. Randy catches Seth and dumps him, and after a bit of a back and forth between Solo and Randy, Randy hits the RKO and eliminates Solo, winning the match and becoming the number one contender. After this, we see Cena collecting himself in the back after watching the match, and there's a bit of an altercation with The Rock, who is upset for Cena carelessly accepting this match for the title with Sami Zayn without consulting him, and they now have a bigger threat to worry about with Randy Orton. Cena says, "What, I have to check with you now to book my own matches, but it's okay for you to book them for me without checking with me?" referring to the LA Knight match. And The Rock says, "Look, John, we both know how important it is for you to have that at the end of the year, and I don't want anything to jeopardize that." And Cena stands up and says, "You don't think I can beat him?" The Rock responds, "I know you can. But see, this Friday night on Smackdown, my little girl's first ever sole GM. It's going to be a momentous occasion, and I need my champion there because I have a big night, big surprise planned for you to commemorate this special night. So you better still be my champion come Friday." The match itself the following Monday is a knockdown, drag-out, back-and-forth affair with some nice little spots and callbacks. Like, I think it would be fun if John Cena started targeting the arm that Sami injured when he came out during his entrance with their last match. And I think it would be fun for Cena to go for his little springboard stunner that he did for such a long time, almost as a mockery to Kevin Owens. But Sami catches him with the stunner for real and gets a very close 2 count. Sami gives John all that he can handle, getting multiple close falls and seeming to nearly have it several times, but in the end, John Cena is able to pull it out, catch Sami with an attitude adjustment off the top rope or something, and pin him 1, 2, 3 clean, no help. He gives him one more attitude adjustment for good measure and locks him in the STFU, refusing to let go as Sammy passes out and referees pry John Cena off. However, in the midst of all this commotion, Randy Orton slides in, delivers an RKO, and sneaks back out. Then, a few days later, on the aforementioned July 18th Smackdown, as Randy is arriving to the building, he is immediately attacked by Karrion Kross and is like power slammed on top of the hood of the car in the parking lot or something. Randy's taken away to a local medical facility, pal, and the reason this is important will become apparent soon. Also, this night is where I would have the Travis Scott in-ring debut, and by this time, I wanted to also be clear that The Rock has almost adopted Travis Scott as this brother that he never even had, even though he totally does. You remember the thing he wanted Cody to be. Travis is now becoming that, with he and The Rock being seen increasingly more and more together, and with The Rock also becoming more and more vested in Scott's wrestling career, with like a produced package of The Rock personally training him in the ring. Anyway, he debuts against a jobber, and it's clear there's some funny business, and the guy has been paid off to make Travis look good. But ultimately, LA Knight's going to get involved and beat the piss out of them both, get the match ruled a draw due to both of them getting laid out. Rock is shown in his dressing room really upset by this and chastising Ava for not having this better covered. Maybe Daddy made a mistake bringing you here. To which she shakes her head no and says she'll handle it and make LA Knight pay for this. And he says, I know you will. Just don't let Daddy down. And he leaves her nearly in tears. Then in our ending segment, The Rock heads out to the ring and he says, I want to bring out a man who means a lot to The Rock, who's battled The Rock at WrestleMania, who many consider to be the GOAT, the 17-time World Champion, Nature Boy Ric Flair. And Nate comes out to the ring to what I expect would be a thunderous applause. I would have this be in the Carolinas if it's possible, or I guess really anywhere that's Flair country. But he is carrying a silk bag. He cuts a classic Flair promo, talks about how happy he is to be back home, and then The Rock brings out another guy he's battled at WrestleMania twice in a lifetime, who many consider to be the GOAT, and who is a 17-time world champion, John Cena. Now, the juxtaposition of the cheers Flair just got to the boos that Cena gets should be a major contrast. Anyway, Cena comes out and Flair is now visibly uncomfortable. But Rock gives a little speech about Cena joining Flair as the record holders for the most world titles and how their names will now forever be associated. And as a symbol of that, The Rock has Flair unveil from the bag a commemorative diamond WWE Championship for the 17-time winners, with a Flair engraved special plate on one side and a Cena one on the other. The Rock says, diamonds are forever, and so are Ric Flair and John Cena's legacies. Now, Rick sets the title down on a stool in the ring, and he just goes to leave after this, almost like he can't wait to get out of there. To which The Rock asks him where he's going and brings him back to the center. He says he's not done yet, and he wants to ask one more thing of Rick. That it would be good for the business, and the fans would like to see Rick accompany John Cena to the ring as his advisor for the remainder of his final run. Rick takes a minute and says, you know, to share the record with you, to have our names forever locked in wrestling history, and to accompany you on your final run. If you had told me this a year ago, I would have been absolutely honored for all of those things to happen. But now, I'm ashamed of you. And don't get me wrong, I am the dirtiest player in the game, and I am no saint, and brother, it is not my place to throw stones for a man running over people to get his. And if you'd done it in a way like your own man, I would respect that. But you're not. You're doing it his way. And he points to The Rock. You're his puppet. And I don't make it a habit of agreeing with CM Punk, but he's absolutely right when he says you are the one that is going to ruin this business. So for now, I'll just have to live with the fact that my name is forever linked to a sellout. And let's just say, I hope Randy kicks your ass at SummerSlam, and I'm counting down the days until my daughter beats us both in the record books. And then as Nate goes to leave, Cena and The Rock look at each other. Rock gives the cutthroat gesture. Cena hesitates at first, and then begrudgingly heads outside, catches up to Flair, and beats the crap out of him, to the best of what he can now. But ideally, if Nate could get some color, that would be great. And the whole time, you're thinking Randy's going to pop up and save him, but it doesn't happen. After Cena beats and berates Flair for a while, The Rock puts the cherry on top by delivering a people's elbow. Cena scowls, but it's not like the one at Elimination Chamber. This time, he doesn't look proud of what he did. Randy arrives at the arena despondent and angry right as they're transporting Rick away in the ambulance, and Rock meets him there as the doors close. Randy looks ready to fight, and Rock says, whoa, you lay a hand on me or John Cena before SummerSlam, and you lose more than your title match, you'll lose your job. You be here next week, and be more careful. Randy, barely able to contain himself from socking the final boss, walks away seething. Now, the next week is the contract signing for SummerSlam, and Randy is uncharacteristically calm as he enters to the crowd singing his song. John starts singing along as well over the microphone and interrupts it. He says, "Oh, come on, we were having fun, weren't we? My old pal, huh? For my entire time as a wrestler, you've been the one guy that my name has been forever interlocked with. Like two sides of the same coin. And without a doubt, you're the greatest rival of my career. But as time passes, when history talks about us, they're going to associate me with a different name, aren't they? And I know with absolute certainty that the fact that my name is there instead of yours eats you alive." Now let's face facts, Randy. We all know you don't have another 3 world championships in you to get there. And I know that you think because they sing your song now, that means that they care about you. But the reality is, they sense it too. They know your time's about up, and that's the only reason they finally come around to appreciate you. Because they don't appreciate anything until it's gone. Because they know that back, that neck, it's not going to be long before you're just like your buddy Kevin Owens. Randy somehow keeps his cool despite John's obvious attempts to get him to physically respond, and simply says, "Don't be jealous, John. They've been singing your song for over 10 years. To this they begin, John Cena sucks. See, I didn't even care that you turned your back on everyone and everything you've ever stood for. I think we all kind of found you exciting again for once. And whether or not these people like me or don't like me, it's never once changed who I am. I am a sadistic, rage-filled snake son of a bitch. I own that. But I'm not a sellout bitch like you are." Let me ask you a question. John, do you think Rocky really cares about you and your legacy? If he did, where is he? Oh yeah, he's babysitting his Make-A-Wish kid. It's almost as if Dwayne Johnson only cares about what your retirement tour can do for him. It's almost like he only cares about squeezing the last ounce of whatever he can get out of John Cena the wrestler before he puts you in a suit and tie and owns John Cena the man. And I'm going to say something that I never thought I would say. You didn't even need the 17th title to be the GOAT, John. You already are. But that doesn't change what you did last week. And I'm not coming for a 15th world title anymore. I'm coming to hurt you. And he signs the contract, leaves the ring. Now, the next night on the Go Home Smackdown, Randy Orton is scheduled to face Karrion Kross. And knowing from recent history, Randy is aware that this is unlikely to be an actual match. On his way to the ring, though, he is stopped by Triple H. And having their relationship with Rick and Randy the way he does, Trips just says to Randy, "You know what tonight is. Handle it. Then kick the shit out of him on Sunday and bring that belt home." Sorry, that's the best Triple H I got. Randy nods in acknowledgement and then proceeds to catch Karrion Kross in the aisleway as he tries to jump him during his entrance. He beats him from post to post around the ring, throws him back in, plants him with an RKO for a quick 1, 2, 3. And that brings us to the night of SummerSlam. And Randy and Cena, with their established chemistry and how well they know each other, would surely give us one hell of a last match together. But at some point, The Rock is going to get involved in the match, and he's going to catch an RKO for his troubles. Now, importantly, this doesn't directly lead to the finishing sequence of the match. It's not like Randy's distracted, John takes advantage. This is just for the pop of the RKO on The Rock. Anyway, after a hard-fought scrap, John catches Randy in mid-RKO attempt, runs him over to the ropes, and heaves him out hard onto the floor. Randy is visibly hurt, grabbing at his back and screaming, but gallantly makes it to his feet somehow and beats the count into the ring. John starts stomping away at his back, though, almost immediately, over and over and over, driving knees into it before hoisting him up and delivering an AA that Randy is unable to kick out from. John Cena wins basically clean off of Randy's back giving out. Now after the match, The Rock has come to, gets in the ring, and has John lift Randy up and hold him while The Rock hits the rock bottom. He then demands Cena get a chair, but before they can use it, "Time to play the game!" Triple H comes out screaming for them to stop, and he and The Rock have a little stare down in the ring. And Cena begins hammering away anyway at Randy's back while The Rock prevents Triple H from getting involved. And right as you think things are about to get physical between the COO and the final boss, we hear, "Wrestling has more than one royal family." Cody Rhodes makes his return after months away to chase off Cena and The Rock. And he and Triple H are left to help carry a broken and battered Randy Orton out of the ring. That's where we're going to leave it for right now, guys. I will be back very, very soon with part 2 covering the remainder of John Cena's final year. If you like this, please like and subscribe to the video. It's going to help the channel. Go check out my other videos. Go watch the other promos that I told you about during this. Just go do all the things. Go do it all. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy WrestleMania. I will see you guys very soon.